The Arizona Cardinals are getting so close to making the playoffs and making a deep run, in my opinion, for a Lombardi trophy. But how will their 2025 draft class help them get there? My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we are going to break down the 2025 Cardinals draft. But before we do that, Ryan is getting married here in a couple of weeks. So send him an early wedding day present by hitting that subscribe button, tackling that bell, and even leaving a like and a comment. Let us know your thoughts on this draft. And Ryan, let's pull this up here. So,
Let's do it.
first pick for the Arizona Cardinals, 16th overall, Walter Nolen, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. And they followed that up with Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan in the second round. Then Jordan Burch, edge rusher from Oregon. Then Cody Simon, linebacker from Ohio State. Then they kept with the same school, cornerback from Ohio State, Denzel Burke. Then their first offensive player drafted, Hayden Connor, offensive guard from Texas. And they wrapped things up with Kitan Crawford, Nevada safety. And this, I think, was I think the type of draft I thought the Cardinals would have, and I thought they did a great job getting a lot of really good value overall at each selection. But one of the areas of this team that they really just need to improve on was the defensive side of the ball. Jonathan Gannon's done a good job over the past couple of years, slowly improving them, getting some better guys in there. I think going getting a versatile guy like Walter Nolen, then getting a guy like Will Johnson, who falls down to him. Yes, he has the injury concern, so we'll have to kind of see how that does overall. But still getting him in the second round, and if he can pan out to be the guy we all thought he could be before his injury last year, absolutely worth the second round pick. Then guys like Jordan Burch, Cody Simon, Denzel Burke, I think can come in and be contributors potentially even this year, but definitely, if not this year, in the long run for sure. So I thought they did a really good job. Ryan, what are your thoughts on these selections?
Yeah, I thought they did a good job as well. They made 7 good picks. Will Johnson is a tremendous value. That's a top 10 talent that fell
Yeah.
because of injury concerns. That's going to boost their grade in my eyes. But yeah, everybody else I felt they took at the appropriate spot. I personally was not the biggest fan of Walter Nolan compared to like consensus, but this is where consensus kind of had him going. I just he had 6 sacks. He was billed as this like disruptive interior defensive lineman, and he was stout against the run, but I never really saw him like truly get upfield on a consistent basis. And he had 3 sacks against South Carolina. And so that for me was a bit of a negative. But with that being said, this is where consensus had him going. I don't view this as a reach in terms of consensus, and typically consensus boards are the closest thing to like the source of truth that we have in the draft. So I think that that's a good pick. Yeah, they definitely got better. This was the type of draft I think a team like the Arizona Cardinals really needed, because they have the Marvin Harrison Jr. that they drafted last year. That's a star. Kyler Murray is their franchise quarterback. James Conner is their running back. They have Byron Murphy on the defensive side of the ball. And like they have some of the stars that you need to be successful in the NFL. And they really went out, and I think they just got guys that are going to be not necessarily the face of the franchise, but going to be that supporting cast that they
Yeah.
need to just elevate the base level of play on this roster so that they can more consistently compete with the top tier teams in their division, like the Rams, like the 49ers, and then even go out into the conference and just the rest of the NFL and put out a more consistent product week in and week out.
Yeah, yeah. I think on the defensive side of the ball, like they just needed to be just kind of overall average, and actually even too. Let me see if I can even pull it up here, like because I still have the stats from last year. But if this defense was just average as a whole, I think they would have improved. I think they would have made the playoffs. But like Cardinals, they are 21st overall in total yards allowed, 14th in passing yards allowed. So not bad. 20th in rushing yards allowed. And so they're still below average, so they can just keep on improving from there. And even adding guys like Calais Campbell in free agency is, I think, going to help out the young guy, especially a guy like Walter Nolan, develop as a whole. And so I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to take off next year. I think him and Kyler Murray just needed more time, I think, to gel because Kyler Murray is
Mhm.
definitely the more scrambler, improvisational type quarterback. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. definitely is like there's used to be more in that like stuck system, so to say, and like have his overall athleticism and route running capabilities with a more accurate passer and targeted like routes. I think was what he was more used to. I think they spend this offseason together, and I think this I think that relationship, and I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to take off. And I bring up that specifically is because if that doesn't happen, I think one knock, and this is very picky on this because this is definitely a very defensive heavy draft. They definitely needed help on the defensive side of the ball. I think Jonathan Gannon is going to work these guys, and they're going to have an above average defense next year. There's one thing I think I would have liked to see them add was another receiver, so to
Yeah.
say. It's like they do have Trey McBride, who was second in tight end receiving yards last year, and I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to take off as well. They have other guys like Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, who are solid guys, definitely more role player guys. And they got like guys like Zay Jones, Simi Fiaco as well that came from the Chargers last year. So other good role player guys, but I also think too as well. Let's say Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray are still just disconnecting there, and he doesn't have like the 1,500 yard season that you're expecting him to have. It's how can you keep on improving in this pass game as a whole? Do you start asking questions about like is Kyler Murray the guy, et cetera? Like should we go get another receiver to help out Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because I think this offensive line's really good. They've got a great running game with James Conner and Trey McBride. I think that's just the one area where there's still some question marks. There's a lot of question
Yeah.
marks on the defensive side of the ball they're trying to address. But if there's one area
Yeah.
on the offensive side of the ball that they can improve just a little bit more, I think that would have been it. But that's very nitpicky. I still think this is one of my more favorite drafts. I would give this an A minus draft as a whole, just with the value that they got for these guys here. And I think we've seen Jonathan Gannon develop these guys, and this defense get a lot better. I really am excited about the prospects of the Cardinals defense this year.
Yeah. I'm gonna go B to B plus for me. So my average grade is a C. I'm gonna give this a good above average grade. I do wish that they would have addressed the wide receiver position. With that being said, I don't necessarily know where, especially on the first 2 days. I think that they did a really good job of addressing and filling needs. So that for me is interesting. I do look at this team potentially adding a wide receiver in training camp. I think you look at teams. I'm going to say the Patriots because as a Patriots fan, I know them really well. But the Patriots right now have 10 guys on the roster. They have 2 guys from last year's class. They just drafted Kyle Williams. They signed Stephon Diggs and Mac Hollins, and they have Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, and Kayshawn Boutte. That's 8 receivers
Yeah.
that are going to all be vying for 6 spots. So 2 of those guys are going to be out. I would love if like the Cardinals went and sent like a day 3 pick next year for like a receiver that can come in and be the second or third fiddle to what they already have. And I'm not saying like the Patriots to the Patriots specifically, but just to a team that has a surplus of wide receiver 2s and 3s. I think that they could go and get one of those guys inexpensively this offseason and potentially add them during training camp. So I think that would be a good move on their part, especially since they already have that top dog in Marvin Harrison Jr.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think the one where I would have gotten, because it is tough for me to knack the first 3 picks in my opinion, but like in an area where I think that they could have gone that is, and Cody Simon's good. Don't get me wrong. I think that he can develop really well, but like Jalen Royals was still on the board, and I think that would have
Yeah,
been a very interesting combo. Now, is there
very
some
fair.
overlap potentially with like maybe Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson role? Potentially. But that being said, though, too, like I think that maybe would have been a good argument because you could have gone and gotten a later running back later on. So, but that being said, that's me being very picky overall. I would still really like this Cardinals team. I really like the way that Jonathan Gannon has them play and how much hustle they put in. Even going back to his first year when like they were not good, like Josh Dobbs like was their quarterback and everything. And so I think that's they're just a team that I just like respect and root for, similar to the
Yeah.
Lions as well. If the Falcons aren't playing them, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they end up doing. I do think this division is going to come down to the Rams and the Cardinals. They're going to have a tough time. This NFC West is going to be
Yeah.
very interesting to watch.
Yeah. No, this division got really competitive because I think the 49ers are going to potentially have a bounce back year. We'll see with Brandon Ayuk coming back from the ACL. They traded away Debo Samuel. George Kittle's getting older. So I like this team, I think, has a really good chance to come in and compete for the division. I'm rooting for him. This is like the new Detroit Lions, I guess, in like we've watched this team
As like
kind of grow
Grayson
up.
Take fan favorite, yeah.
Yeah, kind of grow up, and now like we think they're on the cusp of potentially competing for a division title and a playoff spot. So With that note, let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of the Arizona Cardinals 2025 draft class. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? Done that. We'll see you guys next time.